Hi thinkers, what if every time you step out of your house, you had to report it to police? What if drones was your village, your festival, and your family gatherings? This isn't a dystopian future. This is happening right now in Bastar, Chhattisgarh. In the forested heart of southern Chhattisgarh, in Bijapur and Sukhama district, life is changing quietly but profoundly. Villages that once functioned on trust, tradition, and community rhythms are now being reshaped by a growing web of surveillance. House numbers are painted on walls, drones overhead, and a constant need to report who you are, where you go, and who you visit. This is Buster, and this is a story of security and its human cost. This story brought up by journalist Malini Subramaniam, a reporter steadily visiting these areas in Bastar. For decades, Bastar has been at the center of India's conflict with Maoist insurgents. Security forces say that the situation is changing. Hundreds of Maoists have been killed or have surrendered in recent operations. The government has set ambitious target to eliminate Maoists. But on ground, this push for control has brought with it something else, a system of intensive surveillance affecting entire community. Malini mentioned in one village under a large maua tree, residents point out something unusual. Number painted outside their homes 34, 36, 114. This is not address in the urban sense. They are identifiers used by security forces. Every resident must remember their assigned number if stopped near a security camp. They must identify themselves using it. But for many years, especially elderly villagers, this is unfamiliar. Some people don't remember the numbers. One man has slept because he didn't answer the authorities the exact number of his house. Even gatherings in a group can trigger suspicion. In communities where identity has always been relational, based on family, clan, and village, this shift to numeric identification represents something extraordinary. Surveillance not only stop identification, residents describe a system where everyday life is monitored. Visitors must report, travel for work must be declared, list of people leaving villages are shared with camps, seasonal migrations for chili farming or forest work now comes with the documentation. Even festival, once most happening thing in Adivasi culture, are not a private affair now. They have to inform them before any festival. Even if relative comes, we must tell. Drones are under set to monitor gatherings. Security personnel can arrive if groups assemble. In result, a constant discomfort of being watched is among this Adivasi community. Legal experts raise a serious concern. They argue that mass surveillance requires legal backing. It must be based on necessity, not convenience, and must respect constitutional protections. At the center of this debate is Article 21 of Indian Constitution, which guarantees the right to life, personal liberty, and including privacy. Experts want a chilling effect where people restrict their own behavior out of fear of legal action, government retaliation, or social repercussions. This will discourage free expression and chilling fundamental rights for the people of this area. Another layer of concern emerges around certain surrender policies. When government promotes rehabilitation with vocational training and financial incentives, Ground reports suggest more complex reality. Some individuals claim they were pressured to surrender, asked to name another in their village, and listed as Maoists despite limited involvement. This creates a cycle. Names are given, more people come under suspicion, surveillance expands further. And within villages, trust begins to erode. Even Malini told us that the conflict in Bastar is not one-sided. Residents acknowledged that Maoists also exercise control, restrict movements, monitor communication, enforce their own rules, but today villagers describe new reality. A transition from one system of control to another. At this time, livelihoods are affected. Access to forest is restricted, harvesting cycles disrupted, cash incomes from forest produce reduced from past years. For communities dependent on seasonal economies, this disruptions is severe. One of the most troubling aspects is the involvement of minors. Malini confirms some underage individuals were recruited by Maoists. Several young people have died in encounters. Families sometimes dispute official claims, saying victims were civilians or younger than reported, highlighting the blurred lines in conflict. Bastar today stands at a crossroad. Security forces argue that surveillance necessary to prevent a return of insurgency, which highlights that sometimes freedom sacrifice at the higher cost of security. But villagers describe a different reality, one of constant monitoring, restricted movements, and shrinking personal space. That builds a sense of fear among the Bastar's Adivasi community. But still few question remains. Where do we draw the line between security and freedom? Because in Bastar, that line is not theoretical. That is lived every single day. This story continues to unfold, and voices from ground remain critical in understanding it. For more such ground reports, stay informed and keep thinking.